Hello everyone, this is Jimmy and welcome to episode 19 of Project Ozone 3. Let's see, it's time to upgrade to the tier 4 loot factory. So I also prepared us a wither controller. All it involved was, tagging a wither. So let's pause this and see if we can upgrade to tier 4. I'm pretty sure it's placing blocks. Yeah, you can see the number of casings in my inventory going down. This would be such a hassle without the auto block placer. I really think more mods that use multi-blocks need a tool like this. Even if they're like reasonably symmetric multi-blocks, it's so nice to just auto place them. Is that all? That might be all of them. That looks pretty neat. So let's validate it. Checks out. So right now this is still configured for scorpions, but I think we've gotten enough of the poison glands. So let's swap it out. That's as simple as breaking the factory controller, putting a new one in its place, and let's see how much power this takes. It's only 700 a tick, but it takes a long time. 3600 ticks is, let's see, drop the 0, divide by 2, 100, so 3 minutes each. Oh, and we have to supply it with ingredients. Interesting. And then we get, this stuff. So the fact that we have to supply it with ingredients, let's set that up real quick. I'll just manually, set up a system that'll shove soul sand and wither skeleton skulls in for now. We don't have to run it for too long, but I would like to, get, I don't know, a couple dozen, couple hundred nether stars, just so we don't have to worry when we need the random 1 to 10 here and there. And that's as simple as putting these skulls and soul sand in the inventory next to the importer. Much like the exporter, it doesn't interact with like piping or anything, it just has to be adjacent to it. So this should now be making our withers, and I think it just spawned one, which is why it's at 0%. So let's see where the outputs go. Oh right, I started piping our outputs all into our mob storage, our mob system here. So it's probably still sitting in this because we don't have room for it elsewhere. Yeah, look at that. We're getting all the drops from the wither, and all we have to do is, stash these away into our drawers somewhere. Now, with that out of the way, let's move on to why we actually, built this entire thing to begin with, right? And that was to farm the Landia ingots, specifically to get the ones that drop off the Big Brother boss mob. So I looked a bit into how to spawn it, and we have to start by building one of these towers of Landia and getting a handful of all of these landcraft blocks. The soul crystal drops from that Antillean overlord boss in Erebus, and we need actually a number of these, both for this, I don't know if we'll use it for that, but we'll need it for, a bunch when we get into Project E. So instead of going to hunt down like 17, Antillean overlords, why don't we see if we can find an easier way to get these? So I've been told that while you can spawn the Antillean overlord in the Woot mob farm, it's bugged to not give the soul crystal as a drop. So we can't do that. However, if we do, let's see, mob grinding utils has this thing called a mob swap, and I believe you can use it to create spawn eggs. So you can like hit the mob with the swab and then make chicken feed out of it, and use that to make spawn eggs, like the creative type eggs. And with that, you can either change spawner types or just spawn the mob in. So I'm going to go find a Antillean overlord and play with it a bit and see if I can get some DNA swabs of it. Unfortunately, this means we're gonna have to go back to the Erebus and find another one of those pyramids. This is also most definitely not the Erebus. That's the Twilight Forest. Oh, weird. When I came through the Twilight Forest portal again, it made a new one floating out here. Oh, whatever. Found one. This one is entirely above ground. Mostly, anyways. I guess it'll still get largely covered in lava. Anyways, I'm just gonna go farm up all the 4 Guardian idol thingies, and then head straight to the boss. Alright, here we go. The Antillean Overlord. So while I don't expect the thing to work, I'm still going to... Let's see, 1 kill, perfect. So I'm still going to tag it, just in case. And let's see, how do these mob swaps work? Do I right-click? So you right-click to get DNA. And I guess, is 1 right-click enough, or do you need 2? You should also make sure not to actually die to it. I think just right-clicking it once, you get DNA on one side of it, that's enough. So I'm going to swab all of the... Ooh, God, he hurts. He broke all my armor. Maybe I should leave. You know what? I'm going to just not die to him. He, like, broke all my armor in 3 hits. Alright, so I have 2 mob swaps and 1 DNA shard. That should be enough, I hope. Well, rest in peace his armor. So I hope he drops 1 soul crystal, and I hope this broken portal still works. Cool. Anyways, I'm going to head back to the overworld, and we can see if we can figure out how to use these mob swaps. Before we do anything too fancy, let's see if the, let's just confirm whether or not the drops work with the Woot controller. If it does, then we'll just use this. So, let's see. Yeah, it for some reason doesn't think that the Antillean Overlord drops its drops the soul crystal, so we can't farm it like this. You have to actually kill the mob. That's fine. We'll switch this back to the wither for now, and continue getting these wither drops for a little bit. All right, I went ahead and remade and re-enchanted a set of armor. Who knows how long that'll last, but the tooltip on the swab says craft with a bucket of XP and seeds. So let's get a bucket of EXP. I already have some seeds. And this makes genetically modified chicken feed. And it does use up our mob swap, so let's keep that in mind. And feed to chicken, single use for the chicken. Alright. Do I have a chicken? Hi, chicken. Oh, it is indeed single use for the chicken. I did not expect that. So anyways, that produces a spawn egg. We could, you know, simply use the spawn egg. That'll spawn in a Antillean Overlord. Well, I probably don't want to spawn it right here. I don't actually know if it deals block damage. But I think a thing that has been a feature in Minecraft for a while is that if we right-click this onto a vanilla spawner, it changes the spawner to this type. And if that doesn't work, I have a backup swap anyways. So let me go find a vanilla mob spawner. Let's see, there's a bunch in here, right? Alright, the Lost Cities never fails to deliver. So I don't need 2 of them, so I'm just going to break 1 of them. And I think I'm going to even light this one up, so hopefully it doesn't spawn mobs while I'm, you know, trying to figure it out. Good enough. Alright, so what I'm expecting is when I right-click this on the mob spawner, it'll spawn, or it'll turn the spawner into a Antillean Overlord spawner, which it did. And then, you know what, let's see if it spawns. No, I don't want to spawn one right now. I want to, if I click it with a drop of evil, it should become a disturbed mob spawner, which allows me to, you know, move it. Neat. So now we have a movable spawner of that has the Antillean Overlord in it. Let's take this somewhere flat where I can see if it works. Alright, may as well just try it out here in the Lost Cities, right? If it doesn't work and everything blows up and it kills me, then I can just, well, it'll be easy enough to get my stuff back. And it won't do any meaningful damage, you know, to my base or anything. So, I'm not sure if it's working. Let me see, do I have any speed upgrades? Not extra utility speed upgrades. Alright, let's take this back to our basin where I do have speed upgrades and see if maybe that's the difference. Alright, let's try spawning on our Gaia Guardian platform here just because there's nothing else going on. So it does drain grid power while it's in use. I think that's a good sign. but it's not making the mob. Maybe it has to be a little off the ground because the mob's a little tall. I don't actually know what the spawn area this mob is, like the spawn size. Normally there's a little spinning animation inside too, showing what mob it is. And that's not showing, which I think is a bad sign. Alright, after thinking about this a little bit, I think I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm gonna need like a half dozen more of these max. You know, maybe a dozen if I end up needing to make multiple of these Landia towers. So if I only need that many, why am I bothering to set up an automated spawner? I can just manually spawn them, you know, when I need them. So I'll just hang on to this one mob swab, and later when it's, you know, when it's time to, like when I need more, I'll just spawn one of them in with it, you know, swab it 4 more times and then kill it again. So we don't have to deal with this auto spawning, you know, business. Cool. So I now have the 2 soul crystals that I need to make our Tower of Landia. So let's craft this. Yeah, we can do it. So I believe the items you need to summon the Landia boss called Big Brother is 1 Tower of Landia. So this is the, you know, the real component, right? The one that's difficult to craft. And then you need 4 blocks of Landium and Keyline, and 2 blocks each of the other Landcraft ores. And I do believe it has to be done in the Landcraft dimension. So let's find a place to set it up. I think it's always dark here, or is it like always dusk here, so it doesn't really matter. You know what, let's see. Maybe we can make it day. I hope this dimension isn't like the Nether where, you know, beds kill you. Hey, we can sleep. Oh, but it doesn't make it day. That's what I thought. Alright, whatever. We'll just build it somewhere here. Ooh, nice spike. Let's build it on top of this tree. I think it wants to be it needs a little room around it. You place the tower, and then let me reference the documentation here. If you just Google Landcraft summoning Big Brother, there's a GitHub page that has the order that you have to place the blocks. So I'm just going to, let's see, cut here, and I'll come back when I have all but one of the blocks placed. Oh, and for those of you that don't, you know, want to just be given the answer, there is a, when you right click it, it does like give you a riddle, and you can just solve the riddle, you know, instead of looking it up if you like. Alright, so I actually placed all the blocks because placing the blocks alone doesn't activate it. So when you right click it now after you have all the blocks in place, it says at the bottom, now sacrifice one who has the power of blah blah blah. And what that's asking you to do is kill a wizard nearby. So let me see if I can find one. And let's grab something to carry him in. And we'll have to bring a wizard over to our tower. Don't see one on our minimap. Alright, I'm gonna go look around a bit. Alright, I think I found one. You're a wizard, Harry. All you have to do is bring him over to the altar and kill him out of there. Although before we do that, let's grab some supplies. So the supplies I wanted were an ender shard so that we can, you know, make the farm of him, and some mob swaps just in case something goes wrong. So I think you put it here, you shoot it. Whoops, I didn't kill him. Oh, he has a lot of health. Hey, get back in the soul vial. Oh, it worked. There he is. So I guess it consumes some of the blocks. And here's Big Brother. So let's swap him up. And that's bound, so let's kill him. He is huge. Jeez, he's like 15 villages tall. As like usual, the fights aren't terribly difficult with our friendly laser gun. And I think, yeah, he drops a bunch of various ingots, which is why we want to kill him. And I'll just clean up the wizards he summoned. Do they drop anything interesting? Doesn't look like it. Rice. Alright, whatever. So the other interesting thing it dropped, I guess, are these Landmaster's wings, which allows... Oh, basically it's a jetpack. Cool. But I mean, we have a jetpack, so I'm going to stick with my armor jetpack. Anyways, I think we're ready to head back. Apparently he drops nether stars as well, so looks like we're not going to need our wither farm anymore. Alright, let's turn our ender shard into a controller. Let's see what tier it is. I suspect it's tier 4. Yeah. And so long, wither farm. Alright, so let's see what this does. Takes the same amount of time. I think that's what did we say? That was 3 minutes. And yeah, it drops. You can't quite see the chance because it's covered. Oh, there it is. 100%. You can just barely see it under the search bar. So yeah, he drops, in addition to nether stars, he drops all the various ingots. So 50% chance for each. Wow, we're gonna need a lot. A lot. Whatever. We'll let this go for a while because of how slow this is. So I'm thinking we want to invest in some of the upgrades. So right, Woot has all these upgrades, and I suspect looting will increase the amount we get. And let's see, we get up to 4, right? So rate for speed, looting for amount, efficiency for reduced RF usage, and I guess whatever for the last one. I don't know what mass does. I'll read the book. Alright, so mass spawns more mobs at a time, which seems like we want that. The only thing I'm wondering now is, can I have multiples? Oh. I see. Okay, so that says to use a tier 3, you need a tier 2 and a tier 1 under it. But can I have multiples of the same one? Doesn't say anything about it, so we may as well try, right? Actually, we had an easy enough way to test if multiples work. We had 2 looting 1s on our farm here, and it was 610 with one of them. I assume putting one on will make it, change something, right? Then none of the drop chances changed, and it's still the same amount of power. Whereas if I remove both of them, you can see that the power goes down. So I think that means that 2 or multiple upgrades of the same type do not stack, which is good to know. So for some reason, I can't craft the upgrades in our crafting tablet thing. I think I have to make them in a crafting table, and I'm not quite sure why, but I suspect it has to do with the game think or the table or tablet thinks that the books are interchangeable, whereas they are not actually. Anyways, tier 1s would be the tier 2s. I guess I should sort my inventory at least a little bit. But once we have all these crafted up, we can place them on our root structure, and we should have a max tier, max upgrade woot farm. So just for reference, with all 4 tier 1s placed, we can see that it spawns 2 guys at a time. Takes a little bit less time, a bit more RF a tick, and a bit less total power per mob. Anyways, going from here, we're going to need the 2s. You have to put the 2s on top of the respective 1s. That's a 3. So with all the 2s, we might be reaching a point where the RF cost is going to get too high. Uh-oh. What happened? There we go. All the drops are back. Why are there only 3 types of ingots? Anyway, let's run it a little bit longer. Okay, no, all four are back now. Never mind, we're good. So now it takes even less time, half the time of no upgrades, but it takes, more power. Um, let's do it with the tier 3s. Did I not make, oh, there it is. All right, now taking even more power, over 5,000 a tick, which is actually the output limit of our transfer of our power cell. So we're going to need to give it a bit more power. And all right, now it's dropping. Why are these only 33% now? Right, these were 100%, were they not? You know what, I'm just gonna let it run a bit. I'm thinking maybe we don't need the looting. I'm not sure the looting is helping. I'm gonna try it without the looting. All right, so as an experiment, I left the looting on and I just turned off the extract on this conduit. These are the drops from a single kill. So looking at this, I actually think the numbers are the drop chance per mob, not the overall drop chance. And remember, because we have the mass upgrades, we're killing 4 per. So let's see. Let's remember this and take a second, and we'll compare it to 1 kill with looting. Or rather without looting. This is with looting. And here is 1 cycle without the looting upgrade. So I actually think it is less, right? I didn't actually write down the exact numbers, but yeah, I'm pretty sure we are now getting significantly less. Okay, so that's good to know. So that means that we do want the looting upgrade in. So let's go ahead and leave that in. Anyway, so that creates our next problem, which is power consumption. So we can turn you back on. It consumes 5,200 RF a tick, and I fixed the problem of us not being able to transfer enough power. The power cell outputs 5,000 RF a tick a side, but now we can just use multiple sides. So that's not a problem, but we don't produce 5,000 RF a tick. We produce, let's see, 840 times 7. Okay, so we do produce a little bit over 5,000 RF a tick. In total, this is like 6,000-ish. But we also do more than just, run the one thing with our base, right? I'm thinking next we want to increase our power production at least a little bit. So as for power upgrades, I think the easy, somewhat stupid, boring option is just to build more magmatic dynamos. Right now, with all of them running, we're only using, maybe half-ish of our lava generation, right? Like some of these are just not running at all, some are only running part-time. So if we just double up on our magmatic dynamos, we make twice as much lava, or I mean twice as much power. Of course, we also have all this lava backed up that we could use, so we can probably even triple up on magmatics if we like. And while that's easy, I find that kind of boring. So why don't we do the only marginally less boring option of going into extreme reactors. So this is like the spiritual successor to big reactors, and it basically functions exactly like big reactors did in the 1.7 days. So we need a handful of these blocks: a controller, a few ports, some fuel rods, some control rods, and yeah, we'll make some glass so we can see it. So I took a look at these recipes. They're a bit more difficult than normal, but all said, I don't think it's anything unreasonable. So let's go assemble one. All right, let's build our reactor. So the design I like to use is a 5x5 interior, right? It's 5x5 interior with like an X shape of the fuel rods, and I think that's very efficient, fuel efficient that is, and it can be vertically scaled as needed. So I think I'll start it with 5 tall, and again, as I said, we'll vertically scale it up as needed. So whoopsie, just have to build out the structure. I think this part is pretty self-explanatory, so I'll come back to after I have it laid out. All right, here's the basic structure. So 5x5 interior, 7x7 exterior. All the sides are glass lined, although they don't have to be glass. As for ports, we have 2 access ports, one in input mode, one in output mode, 1 controller. Let's see, 2 redstone ports. These are not strictly necessary, although I'll show you what I like to do with these once we have it hooked up. This is how I like to do my control loop, right? The one to turn on, one to turn off. And lastly, 1 power tap. So this reactor will be running in power mode as opposed to steam mode. Later we can switch it over to running in steam mode where we can use that steam to power turbines. But for now, whoopsies, my jetpack is out of power. Oh right, it's because I left my charger behind. Alright, well anyways, let me go fix my power situation real quick. Alright, we can fly again. Last thing we need to do before we're ready to power it on is fill it with a coolant material. And one of the best coolants is Resonant Ender. I think I'm not actually sure why it's good, but it's just, due to whatever reason in the code, it is a good coolant. So all we have to do is empty mode, and you want to fill every slot with Resonant Ender, with the exception of the slots that have a solid material. All right, once we have all our Ender filled in, then all that's left is to close it up and fuel it up. So put all the casings on. Good, it formed the multi-block. Let's see, now we need to supply it with some fuel. So it burns yellorium. For now, let's give it a stack, although actually a stack might not even fully fuel it. It doesn't use up much fuel, but at the very beginning you have to fill up all those fuel rods, right? So it takes, I guess, about a stack and a half to fill it up at first. And activate. So it'll produce, ooh, this is a lot more than I expected. This config must be changed. I was expecting this reactor to produce about 28 kRF a tick. That's what it produces in base configs. Although I guess changes have been made to the config in this pack that make it produce, what, just about 4 times as much? Awesome. So the way I like to control whether or not the reactor is on, I have 2 of these redstone ports. I set one to output energy amount, and I want it to output above, I don't know how, let's say at 80% will turn off the reactor. And actually I want it output below 80%. The other one, I want toggle reactor on and set from signal. So this is an output one. It says, if the reactor is low on energy, output a signal. And this one is if the reactor is, or set the state of the reactor from the signal. So a very simple redstone connection between the two. And we should observe that right now the reactor is off. It's so even after you turn it off, the residual heat continues to generate a little bit of power, but you see the energy is full. So let's get an energy trash can briefly so we can demonstrate this. Place this here. That'll cause our reactor to automatically turn back on because the buffer empties, and that causes our control loop to turn on. So you can observe that now it's running. It has gone through 1 piece of fuel, interestingly enough, and what can happen is because our buffer is empty, it's running. When we remove our energy trash can, that'll cause our buffer to pretty quickly fill up, and that'll cause our reactor to turn off. Cool, and actually with how quickly the residual heat goes, we can set this to much lower than 80%. Let's set that to like 10%. Which basically means if this bar runs completely out, we'll turn it on. Now that's all that's left is to hook up the power tap to our energy, to the producer side of our energy, and to set up a way to keep this stocked with fuel. Alright, so input output is just done. I have drawers holding our fuel. Let's grab a few more stacks. For the time being, again, we'll be manually filling this drawer, but once we get an AE system, we can, have an export bus or something filling this drawer. So this drawer holds yellorium, stuffs it into here. The consumed fuel then comes out of here in the form of cyanide. And if you remember earlier, we had to use some of this to make, I don't remember what it was for. We used it in some step of those capacitors, right? Anyways, another thing I realized is that our resident flux duct here, if we look at its tooltip, transfers 25k RF a tick per connection, which means that we actually can. It is literally impossible for us to draw the 100 plus k a tick that this reactor controls or generates. So while we could just let it pulse, it pulses, generates a little bit, and then drops off, and yada yada. I think it's a slightly more efficient if we actually lower our fuel rods. So if we, let's see, hit control and up. So if we set our control rods into say 70%, what that'll do is that'll result in when the reactor's running, it'll consume fuel slower and generate less power, which will result in a bit less of that, on and off flickering. So anyways, now that we have this reactor set up, this will produce at the very least, the 25k RF a tick that our flux ducts can handle, and later we can upgrade it, by just taking out the control rods, and it'll produce over 100k RF a tick, which will be more than enough power for our mod plotters. And with that, I think our infrastructure work for the day is done. So we can look here, our mob farm has been slowly producing more ingots. I added another storage scanner here linked to this drawer controller because with the concealment key here, it's pretty hard to tell what's actually in the drawers. So this will show us. But anyways, let's see. Yeah, of our landcraft ingots, we have 150-ish of each, which might not be enough. We'll see. But I mean, this has only been running for like 20 minutes, right? At the very least, this will be enough to get us a head start in mystical agriculture, and I think that's where we'll pick up tomorrow. So let's wrap up this episode here. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you in the next one. Take care. Bye bye.